Did they just do that for real? Watch Dogs Legion was developed by Ubisoft and published by the same company. And yeah, when it comes to the way I approach my videos is that I make videos based off of facts, and not everyone agrees with the facts. Sometimes the fact is that a certain product, depending on the topic, is a good product. Sometimes it's a bad product that has gotten a lot of publicity, and it's a very popular product, but it's still bad nonetheless. And there's plenty of cases of that in the gaming industry. But see, here's the thing. The facts do not care about your feelings. Your feelings are irrelevant when it comes to the facts. And the fact is that Watch Dogs Legion is a piece of dog shit. This game sucks. This game is royally, egregiously awful. I'm just so done with Ubisoft and their fucking copy-paste bullshit that they do with every single one of their fucking franchises. Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Watch Dogs, Rainbow Six. It's all the fucking same. And normally what they do is they'll create a large, boring, lifeless open world. They'll litter it with hundreds upon hundreds of NPCs, and then they'll make a bunch of random buildings or structures in the environment, and then fill that environment with a bunch of repetitive objectives that just drone on and on and on, copied and pasted dozens upon dozens of times throughout the game world, to the point where the gameplay just becomes a mindless slog. And Watch Dogs Legion has this exact same design, the same design that I've grown tired of, that gamers in general have grown tired of for a very long time. And at this point, the only people who like these types of games are people who are stupid, morons who don't know the difference between a good and a bad product. This game was so fucking bad, in particular, that I actually wrote a review on it on Amazon. And that review on Amazon currently has the most helpful votes. I am sick and tired of spending money supporting just complete laziness, complete apathetic, uninspired garbage like this. And it makes me wonder why gamers even put up with this type of nonsense anymore. We're going into a new generation. You have new consoles that are coming out. The Xbox Series X was just released yesterday. The PlayStation 5 comes out tomorrow. And neither of those consoles have a good, strong launch lineup. Neither one of them. I've gone over the launch lineup for both of those consoles, both of those systems, and neither one is cutting it when it comes to launch exclusives. The Xbox Series X doesn't have any exclusives at launch. It has no killer apps at launch. The PlayStation 5 has only 2 that are really worth anyone's time, and one of them is available on the PlayStation 4. Therefore, we have to look at multiplats. You know, what are the multi-platform games that are going to be coming out on these things that are going to be worth playing? What are the multi-platform AAA big budget titles that are going to be worth anyone's time or investment to go out and purchase a new generation console? And this is the kind of bullshit that these companies deliver to us. A game like Watch Dogs Legion is not of quality to go out and spend full price $60 to play this bullshit, let alone to go out and spend $500 on a new console, $400, $500 on a new console, to play it on that with some minor graphical updates. Absolutely not. So, what's wrong with Watch Dogs Legion? Well, there's a lot of things that's wrong with this game, aside from the repetition. Let's start off with the fact that Ubisoft once again releases a rushed product that's not ready for wide market release. And on top of the fact that it's not ready for wide market release, the game is so buggy, so broken, that there's an actual glitch in the game, and this actually happened to me, as well as dozens of other players, where the game will randomly decide when it wants to save your progress. And if the game decides, hey, I'm not going to save your progress because I'm an asshole, guess what? You've just lost several hours of progress. If the game decides to do that, you can, and will lose a lot of progress in this game. 2 hours into this game, I had to restart the entire game because of this stupid fucking glitch that was not rectified before release. And this is entirely on Ubisoft. I actually went online and discovered that other players ran into the same issue, but they ran into the same issue much farther along in the game. I think it was on Reddit, someone ran into this glitch and they had to restart the game 5 hours in because of Ubisoft and their bullshit. I also read that there was a reviewer, a credible mainstream gaming publication. I don't know who it was, but apparently they were playing this game on the Xbox One. This game just, for whatever reason, once again, they ran into the same glitch and were almost finished with the game, and they lost their entire save file, and therefore were unable to upload a credible review because Ubisoft decided, let's just release what we got because we have to have something out for the holiday season, and we have to have something out to coincide with the release of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. So that alone docks major points from this game. Another problem is the fact that the game just technically isn't developed very well at all. There's a lot of animations that are clearly unfinished. You can perform certain actions in this game and the character will just remain stiff, or the character will not react. And it takes several button presses for the character to do what the hell you want them to do on screen. And so the game is just frustrating to play on that level. And we're talking basics: animation, responsiveness on the controller, with a 1-to-1 ratio between what you press on the controller and what actually happens on screen. Then there's the driving in this game. And I'm not sugarcoating this. I'm not downplaying this. This isn't a form of hyperbole when I say that this game has the worst driving mechanics I've ever seen in an open world game. It's far worse than any Grand Theft Auto game that exists. It's far worse than the previous 2 Watch Dogs games. And Watch Dogs 2 was already a huge downgrade when it came to the driving mechanics compared to the first game. But it's just so fucking broken in this game. Everything with the driving in this game just feels like they just wanted to make some kind of arcade bullshit and didn't even bother to put in the time to make sure that it was fundamentally sound. Because all the cars do in this game is just slide. They just glide across the ground, just slide all over the place. Nothing really has any weight to it except for the larger trucks in this game. And even those do the same thing. They glide across the ground to the point where you really don't have a whole lot of control over them. And then the faster vehicles in this game, like the whole Lamborghini vehicle types, those types of vehicles in the game are so fast that it's a complete nightmare to even remotely try and accurately go around a corner without running into anything or crashing into NPCs. And the cars are designed this way, the larger trucks are designed this way, the motorcycles and the mopeds and all that are designed the same way. It's just a nightmare. The driving is fucking awful in this stupid game. And then it even gets worse beyond that. The fucking shooting. The shooting mechanics aren't good. For anyone that's watched my retrospective on Far Cry 5, in that retrospective I mentioned that Ubisoft does something that they usually do with their games when it comes to the shooting mechanics. And that is, the game will basically auto-aim temporarily when you're trying to shoot at a target. And then the game will loosen up the aiming. But because the aiming is so terrible, you constantly have to re-aim over and over and over again to pull off accurate shots. That's something they usually do with Far Cry, although it's not as big of an issue with Far Cry because Far Cry is a first-person shooter. It's absolutely terrible in this game. Watch Dogs is a third-person shooter, and it's just god-awful. It's frustrating beyond belief when I'm trying to shoot at a target that's only a few feet away or even several feet away, and I can't pull off shots because the aiming is so bad in the game. The game, just from the shooting to the driving to just how you interact with the environment and the level design, it's all mediocre. This game introduces absolutely nothing new that wasn't in the first 2 Watch Dogs games. The hacking is pretty much exactly the same as it was in the first 2 games. Not only is it the same, but you actually lose access to certain things that was available in specifically Watch Dogs 2. A good example would be the nitro on the cars. There is no nitro that I know of that's in this game. You lose access to the flying drone or whatever that was in Watch Dogs 2. In Watch Dogs 2, the character Miles, I believe his name was, he had access to an ability where he could summon a drone, and then you could basically surveillance an area using the drone. You have drones in this game that you can hack, but they're really not a part of your ability set, except for the construction workers. And I'm going to talk about the NPCs here in a second. The one gadget that you use consistently throughout this game is the spider robot, the spider spy robots or whatever that's in each level. It's really basic. You basically have to navigate a maze with these robots and activate certain objects in the environment to essentially make progress. But you can't directly control the spider drones or whatever to actually engage any of the NPCs in the environment. There is one that will attack NPCs or whatever, enemy NPCs, but it's an upgrade. The upgrade system is also trash in this game, speaking of it, because it's essentially a list, a skill tree that requires something called tech points. And Ubisoft designed the tech points to essentially be these collectibles that you pick up in the open world environment. The problem with that is that it basically forces the player to stop what they're doing, which hinders the actual game story, which the story in this stupid game isn't good either. But it hinders the player by forcing them to stop what they're doing so they can go on a scavenger hunt to go and pick up these stupid fucking tech points that are just randomly scattered in the game's open world. And if you do what I did and play this game on its hardest difficulty, you're essentially going to be forced to go through these small zones that's full of enemy NPCs. And it's very easy to get caught. And once you are caught, dozens upon dozens of enemies will swarm you on screen, and you'll easily be overrun by the immense numbers of enemies that are on screen. And if you don't manipulate the game's shitty fucking aiming system, then you're really going to get frustrated with this game rather quick with how mediocre Ubisoft's game design is when it comes to this game's combat system. The tech points should have been naturally inserted into the game to where it's a progress thing. So, for example, like in the Batman Arkham series, when you get an upgrade, it's a natural part of the story. So if Batman runs into an issue, it's scripted that he receives a new gadget. And then for the actual abilities and the skill tree for those games, they made it basically like a light RPG where you have an experience meter and all that. And all you have to do is go around and just defeat enemies, and you acquire skills that way. Instead of doing it the Ubisoft way and turning the fucking skill tree into this boring, mindless, repetitive collectathon that's just not even remotely fun, no matter how much the game developers actually try and push it to be fun. It's simply not fun at all to go around and just collect these stupid icons that are on screen, just so you as the player can gain access to these stupid abilities, some of which are absolutely detrimental in order to make progress in a reasonable amount of time in this game on its hardest challenge. Then you have the NPCs. So the whole gimmick with this game, and this plays into the whole subtitle, the word Legion, is that you can essentially play as anybody in this game. It's the first time that gamers have really seen something like this where you can go around in a big budget open world game like this and everyone is playable. Except that's not really true. Not all of the NPCs are playable. Only the NPCs that like the hacker group DedSec are playable. If an NPC doesn't favor DedSec in this game, you can't play as them. So the system is limited in that way. And the system is also limited in the sense that the NPCs are really just emotionless character sprites. You really don't become attached to any of the NPCs in the game, because when one dies, quote unquote, all you do is simply switch to another one. the game never really gives you time or enough of a reason to care about any of the NPCs in the game. In a way, you can actually criticize Ubisoft for being lazy and not coming up with an actual written character, a written lead, and that the whole you can play as anyone in this game is just a lazy excuse for them to not write an actual character that the player cares about to follow throughout the game's runtime, which is what they did with the first two Watch Dogs games. For whatever fucking reason, a lot of people, despite the fact that he was not a well-written character at all, a lot of people love the Aiden Pierce character. That character wasn't well-written whatsoever, but a lot of people like Aiden Pierce. That's why they keep trying to shove him in every subsequent Watch Dogs game after the first one. But there is no reason to care about any of the characters in this game because the game fails to give the player any emotional investment with any of the NPCs in the game. And each NPC basically has a set of perks or basically a skill set. Some NPCs, for example, can summon cargo drones, which are the construction workers. Some NPCs are like special NPCs that make combat easier, such as the spy NPC or the hitman NPC, which have access to high-grade military-style weapons. And once you find an NPC that's like that, you're going to be more inclined to play as that NPC, regardless of what they look like, because they make the game easier and they make the game slightly more bearable compared to all of the other standard NPCs, most of which just use these boring stun weapons that have a low rate of fire, shit damage, and is just boring by comparison. So the entire system is just a gimmick. Not only are the NPCs a gimmick, but I've even noticed that the NPCs aren't anywhere near as diverse as Ubisoft has marketed them to be prior to this game's official release. I've noticed on at least two separate occasions where you can tell two different NPCs are really just the same character sprite, but they just have different external factors as far as their aesthetics go. So like you can have two NPCs, which is really just the same character sprite, but one has facial hair and the other one may have like a tattoo on the arm with no facial hair. It's extremely lazy, like it's really that bad. And the story in this game doesn't make up for how buggy this game is, how clearly rushed it is, the mediocre combat system, and the stupid you can play as anyone gimmick that this game tries to shove down your throat. The narrative of the game doesn't make up for that either. Because essentially what the story in this game is, it's another copy and paste narrative about a tyrannical government that's been overtaken by these tyrants that have taken over one specific section of the city, and it's the player's job to take out each of these targets and basically liberate London. The problem with this is that it's boring, and the reason it's boring is because Ubisoft does this with every single one of their fucking games. They've told this story numerous times with Assassin's Creed, they've told it numerous times with Far Cry, and not only that, this game takes place in London. We already had a story like this with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which also took place in London, and actually was a far more interesting game, a far more fun game to play than Watch Dogs Legion by a wide margin. And given specifically the political climate of the United States as it stands now, I really don't want to play a game that tries to force some random game developer's political views on me. I don't care about the political views of random people who work in the video game industry. This is part of what the problem was with The Last of Us Part 2. Stop forcing agendas into games where they don't belong. Video games are meant as entertainment. They are not meant as a platform for a game developer to express their political views on the world. And I have no interest to be subjected to the political views of the world in video game form. So, all in all the way around, Watch Dogs Legion is terrible with its gameplay, it's terrible with its story, it's shady with its terrible DLC hoarding practices, which Ubisoft continues to do with every single one of their games. There's an in-game store in this game where the game will try and encourage you as the player to spend money on in-game microtransactions so you can buy some cosmetics. They did this with Assassin's Creed Origins. They did it with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They did it with Far Cry 5. I guarantee it's going to be in Far Cry 6. And even though I'm choosing to skip it entirely, I'm sure it's also a thing in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I'm just done at this point, dude. I'm done with Ubisoft. I'm done with other companies like Ubisoft. Tired of their stupid fucking open world formula, which they don't try and evolve from game to game. I'm tired of their stupid ass fucking fans who defend garbage anti-consumer practices like the bullshit of locking a character like Aiden Pierce behind a paywall with their stupid fucking season pass. I'm tired of the whole copy-paste game design with the mission structure and the whole fetch quest design that they keep doing with each and every single one of their games. And with this one, you can clearly tell on a technical level that the game was just rushed. Far worse than some of their older games that they've released over the past several years. Essentially, this game, in a nutshell, is the Assassin's Creed Unity of the Watch Dogs series. It really doesn't even make any sense for this game to take place in London, considering the first two games took place in the US. It just seems so random and copy and paste. It's like they took a look at Assassin's Creed Syndicate and was like, let's just remake that game, except place it in the Watch Dogs universe. I just don't have any interest anymore in this series. I don't really have any interest more in Ubisoft in general because of their stupidity and their greed. It's not that they're incapable of making a better game. It's that they refuse to make a better game because their fucking fans are idiots and their fans will buy whatever they shit out in a box at retail or online in some random digital marketplace. Anyway, I'm done talking about this bullshit. Fuck this game. Fuck Watch Dogs Legion. It sucks. It's garbage. Ubisoft, I'm just done, dude. I'm done. Y'all ain't trying anymore. This company is not trying anymore. They're not going to be compelled to try as long as fucking IGN and GameSpot and the rest of these bullshit-ass gaming publications continues to give them good scores for weak products that should be criticized more harshly. They're not going to change when their fucking fans will try and defend these products and give them good scores on Metacritic. And it's funny, actually, because originally when this game first came out, it was getting review bombed to hell on all platforms. PC, Xbox One, PS4. People were just downvoting it to hell, and rightfully so, because the game is just a piece of shit. And it's like, this is what AAA gaming has come to. This is the best that we can expect from this industry at this point. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. Gamers sending death threats to CD Projekt Red on Twitter for delaying Cyberpunk 2077. That's funny. That's funny to me. That's hilarious to me because I guarantee when that game comes out, it may not be perfect, or it might be perfect, who knows. But one thing's for sure, it will not be filled with all these technical fucking issues that continuously plague each Ubisoft game that they release. So, as far as I'm concerned, Ubisoft is now on my blacklist, along with Square Enix and a few other companies. I'm done. I'm done with the mediocrity.